it's Catherine here. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. And today I'm truly honored to have a special guest joining us, Jennifer Robertson. So, Jennifer is a fertility and certified holistic life coach and a mind body practitioner. She's also the author of the award winning book, The Injustice of Infertility, a book that documented her own 7 year of infertility journey, which was actually recognized as the best fertility book 2024 by the European Fertility Society. So, in light of this October Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, I'm very excited to have Jennifer joining me today to have a chat about her experience and some strategies on how to help you to rebuilding trust and hope towards pregnancy after infertility and loss. So join me and welcome Jennifer. Hi, Jen.
Hi, thank you so much for having
Oh,
me.
thank you so much for joining this episode, Jen. Now, I have to say, Jen, I have read your book, The Injustice of Infertility. Now, for all of you here that are watching this episode, if you haven't read this book, I strongly recommend you to get it and binge read it because it will be truly, truly change your life and the whole perspective of how, dealing with and supporting your infertility journey. What really inspired you to write this book without giving too much away?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, such a big question is who are you? I am your typical type A personality. I'm very driven. I like control, I'm a planner. So for me, and I know for a lot of the women that I work with and that are watching this as well, infertility and pregnancy loss and pregnancy after loss, it came as a huge shock. I had grown up with this idea of if you just work hard, if you just do your best and put in the effort, you are going to get the reward. And so when my husband and I got married, I was 33 at the time. I was like, okay, like we've decided to do this. I've ticked all of the boxes, met the guy, got married, and next, bought the house, and next stop was having a baby. And it didn't turn out anything like I had imagined, hence the book, and we went through 7 years of ups and downs. And I think one of the reasons why the book resonates with so many of its readers is because we experience the whole raft of everything from trying naturally to then going and increasing, our holistic journey and making changes, and then going down the path of IVF. And then we had to go down the path of surrogacy. And then through that was pregnancy loss. And then after that, it was, I got pregnant naturally myself and experienced my own loss, and then experienced pregnancy after loss. So it was just like this huge roller coaster. And when I decided to write it, I mean, partly it was for the women that I was talking to, because when I would tell my story in my words and not just the glossed over, version, I wanted to do it justice and go, okay, this is the deep, dark thoughts that I was having. I had so much shame around it. And so when I would share this with other women, they would find relief, because I think that we have this idea of I'm doing it wrong. There's something wrong with me. Why can I not be happy for someone else who gets pregnant? Why can I, not pull myself out of this? Why are my thoughts all of a sudden negative? Why am I questioning myself? Like it changes us, and it really does consume us. And for me, I was kicking goals in all aspects of my life. I was working, like I was an accountant, I was the CFO, I had control, and I was such an overachiever, and this really hurt. So, I wanted to write it for the women who feel like it's just them. And I felt like I needed to write it for me as well. It was such a cathartic journey. And it was when I was on the path, like when I was
Yeah.
deep in the throes of it,
Yeah.
I didn't really deal with it because I didn't have the
Yes.
strategies to deal with it. I didn't know how, like
Yeah.
what was happening. I didn't really know people who had gone through it before. I wasn't the type of person to go out and get therapy. Like I felt like I pushed it all down, and that was my strategy. So then writing the book, I was actually grieving it at the same time. And there were
Yeah.
a lot of things when I went to write it, I couldn't remember a lot of stuff. And I know
Yeah.
since then it's a trauma response when we are
Absolutely.
deep in it. And when we're talking about infertility and pregnancy loss, the
Yes.
stress levels that we experience on the journey is
Yeah.
comparable to a cancer diagnosis. It's like, and there's studies that reveal this connection.
Mm.
So it makes sense that I never dealt with it. And writing it was this huge process of basically reliving it at the same time, but also doing that healing afterwards as well. So for me,
Yeah.
it was tough, but it was super rewarding, and it just created the awareness of, oh,
Yeah.
that's why I was doing, and at the end of the book, I do write about these are the lessons that I learned
Mm.
on this. Like, if I
Yeah.
could go back in time and tell my younger self something, this is what it would be. I didn't want it to just be a this is what happened to me. I wanted it to come full circle and kind of go, okay, like this is everything that you're experiencing right now is valid. And
Yeah.
here are some things that you can do to
Yeah.
help you through it as well.
Absolutely, Jen. I think one thing that you highlight the point that quite often, like I'm just hearing through a lot of story, like clients that I've seen as well at the moment in my clinic. I think the society often expect their women to move on very quickly, especially after, pregnancy loss or miscarriages, right? That sometimes can bring on that stress and anxiety even more. Like, can you share about your experience? What was it like for you? What sort of
Yeah.
strategies you cope with that 9 month long of waiting time?
Yeah, so pregnancy after loss,
Mm,
like all kinds of experiences on this
mm,
journey, it's such a disenfranchised
mm,
grief. It's so misunderstood. People don't understand it. And because they don't understand it, we think that there's something
mm,
wrong with us. So for me, getting pregnant after all of the
yeah,
things that we had been through, two
yeah,
pregnancy losses, there was that pressure for me to feel bliss and joy and excitement. And for me, and for a lot of the women that I work with as well, it's the
mm,
complete opposite. It's
yes,
not excitement and joy and
no,
gratitude. It is grief. It is
yeah,
fear. It is terror. And I always say that pregnancy after loss is very similar to, it's like rewalking a path of grief. So on one hand, you are celebrating the milestones that you're reaching this time, but
yeah,
you're also grieving the
yeah,
opportunity that you didn't get last time as well. And so when we're in this space where we have to hold two conflicting emotions at the same time, that's really difficult. And you were talking about coping strategies. For me, like, I created Your Pregnancy Haven, which is the
mm,
community for women who are pregnant after loss.
mm-hmm,
And finding community and finding
mm,
validation is
mm,
so important in the space of pregnancy after loss, because it is very isolating, it is very confusing. And the thing is about our emotions and our feelings. We can't process the conflicting emotions that we're feeling. Like, we can't process them if we don't think it's valid. So if we're
mm,
saying to ourselves, oh, this is
mm,
like, why on earth am I feeling like this? I should be feeling more grateful and excited. Like,
yeah,
this is silly. What's wrong with me? Like, what
yeah,
kind of a person am I to not be able to feel
yeah,
joy at this joyous occasion? There are millions of women who would kill to be in my position right now, and I can't
yeah,
enjoy it. And so
Yep.
when we continually invalidate and
Yep.
criticize and punish ourselves,
Yep.
that's what keeps us stuck. So the first thing is being able to put your hand up and go, hey, first of all, I'm experiencing this. I'm experiencing the wide range of emotions. And what I'm feeling right now is completely valid and
Yep.
understandable. And that's how we then process our way through it. So finding
Yep.
community and validating like what you're experiencing right now is so important.
100%.
And pregnancy after loss, like it is different. It is recognizing
Yep.
that there is pregnancy before loss, and that's one experience.
Yep.
And then there's pregnancy after loss, and it's going to be different. And because it's different, it doesn't mean that it has to be this bad thing.
Yep.
There are strategies and tools and techniques, and I'm running a workshop on the 28th of October about learning ways to actually reduce your stress and anxiety during the
Yep.
space of pregnancy after loss, because we do need different strategies, because
Yep.
we are the trigger. Like we are the
Yep.
thing that is like we're constantly on hyper alert, monitoring for a changing pregnancy symptom or a bump, or constantly like making sure that your breasts are still tender, or going to the toilet and just making sure that there's not, like there's no discoloration or anything like that. Like we're inside the stress. We are the stressor. So
Yep.
it's important that we develop strategies and put plans in place so that
Yep.
we can, when that stress hits, we're able to navigate our way through that.
So true. I think that if you're listening this to our audience here, the very important things that is to get help, to get the community support. I think that is so important rather than you going through all this feeling, all these thoughts that are in you that driving you like, crazy, or then you get more anxiety as well. Someone that currently going through IVF as well, you're expecting on certain outcome, but sometimes that can be completely opposite of what you hoping for. So a lot of women that I'm seeing in my clinic, the number one thing when I first met them, they often share with me is the sense of loss of control. I'm completely out of control. I don't know what I do. No matter what I do to improve my health, my lifestyle, it's just not getting the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So Jen, what would you be suggesting to our audience here in terms of dealing with the loss of control when it comes to fertility,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you find peace and balance in the middle
Yes,
of
oh
everything?
my goodness. It's such a big question, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
and this is the thing I struggled with the most. And this is something that I
Mm,
still deal with on a
mm,
day-to-day basis. Like we want to try to control as much stuff around us as possible. So, I think that there's an element of realization, and I think that that's what's really
mm,
hard. Like this is the first time that I really realized I'm not in control of everything. That even the strategies that I used to employ, if I wanted to, and I know this is a horrible example because I don't like talking about weight or anything like that, but in the old days, before I was aware of all of the diet culture and stuff like that, body image issues,
mm.
if I wanted to look a certain way or fit into a pair of
Yeah.
pants, I would increase the effort. I'd
Yep.
change my diet, and I'd go to the gym more and I would fit into those pants.
Mm,
Whereas this, you can be doing all of the things. You can
yep.
change your diet, you can do the exercise,
Yep.
do the acupuncture, you can take the supplements, you can, do all of the weird and wacky treatments and stuff like that. You can go through IVF and still not get the result. So this
Yes.
is the big thing that I have realized, and this is what I teach my clients as well. What we're trying to do is control the uncontrollable. We are displacing our control. Like what we're trying to control is the result at the end. We are trying
Yes.
to control the outcome,
Yep.
and we can't. So
Yep.
we need to refocus and go, okay, I can control, what I'm eating, my morning routine. I can control, how much I'm on social media. I can control who's around me. I can
Mm,
control whether I go out and get help. Like those are the things that I can control. And I think that it's realigning the goals as well, because a lot of the time we do all of those different things, right? Like
Yeah.
we make all of the changes, and then when we don't get pregnant that month, we're like, well, what's the point? Like it was for absolutely nothing. Whereas
Yeah.
when we can realign the goals and go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to change my diet because I want
Yeah.
to have more energy. I'm
Yeah.
going to do acupuncture
Yeah.
because it chills me out and it reduces my stress levels.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the supplements
Yeah.
because it feels good to look after
Yeah.
myself. So if we can change the goal here,
Yeah.
that helps with the control issue as well. I mean, the control, like
Yeah.
it is something, and I think that it's lowering the expectations as well. It's like, oh, I'm not going to have any control issues. No, of
Mm.
course they're going to be there. The
Mm.
goal isn't to not have any issues or any
Mm.
challenges. It is to
Mm.
be, like changing the way
Yeah.
that we view things, change the
Yeah.
way that we hold. And it's an element of acceptance of, okay, I can control this, so I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on that, but I
Yeah.
know that I can't control the
Yeah.
outcome. And
Yeah.
the goals that I'm setting need to be outside
Yeah.
of the outcome of
Yeah.
to have a baby. Otherwise, we're always going to feel like we're
Trap in
failing.
this. I suppose that like you highlighted, Jen, as well. Like say I have an example, a client that I'm currently seeing, she is someone that have felt severe IVF cycle transfer. And one of the questions she would ask is, Catherine, I really find myself very hard to motivate to continue on eating healthy or even taking certain supplements or doing certain things because I'm just not seeing the result. Like in this case, could you share with me a little bit more strategies, like especially for women going through the IVF journey who have felt several times? How can we keep them
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, and it can become so disheartening when
Mm,
you do feel like you're doing all of the things and it's not giving you the outcome.
yeah.
So with your client, it would be about realigning the goal because
Mm,
she's changing the diet,
mm,
but the goal with that is to have a
mm,
baby. And so
mm,
then it feels like it's all for nothing. So
yeah.
if instead of her, the goal for changing the diet, like what is the outcome? Like
Yeah.
what is the result? It's almost like when we
Yeah.
start set SMART goals, right? It has to
Yeah.
be measurable, it has to be realistic as
Yeah.
well. And so a different goal for
Yeah.
her can be, okay, well, if I change my diet, maybe
Yeah.
the outcome is that I experience less bloating, or I just feel better
Absolutely.
in my body, or
Yeah.
the goal is to have more energy.
Yeah.
So that's the realignment of the goals, so that then you can get to the end. And this is connected with hope as well. So, when we continually set goals and we don't achieve them, then that's when our hope goes, because our hope is actually a thought process. It is about, remember back to a time when everything felt so hopeless. And it was because, you were setting a
Mm,
goal, you weren't achieving it, and then that feels really hopeless. So, this thought process of, okay, if I can rebuild my confidence, because I feel like hope is really connected to our sense of self-worth and our sense of self-confidence. And so if you are continually setting goals and not achieving them, the goal
mm,
being to have a baby, and month after
mm,
month, you're still
mm,
getting that negative result, what
mm.
hope is going to go, because you're not achieving your
Absolutely.
goal. Whereas if you set the goal of, okay, this month I'm going to take my supplements, and so you get
Yeah.
to the end of the month and you're like, hey, I took all my supplements.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Achieved a goal. Tick,
Tick the
gold
box.
star. And
Yeah.
if you're anything like me, like I'm an achiever, like I'm an
Yeah.
overachiever. I really enjoyed that the validation, that external validation. And so the achievement of goals for me
Mm,
is really connected to my sense of self-worth. I don't know whether that's a healthy thing or not, but I know that that works for me. So it's about,
mm.
when we're talking about a hope, like that, like the achievement of goals and making sure that those goals are
Yeah.
realistic and that you have control over them,
Yeah.
because you don't have control over the outcome. You just don't.
Absolutely. I think that also tie into a lot of women felt like they are not themselves anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like they completely change to another person. They don't enjoy life. They're having difficulty to even spend time, right? With their partner, their family member, and friends. They just felt so isolated, lonely,
Mm.
just completely felt like not being themselves anymore. So you mentioned about the community support as well, Jen, earlier on. How important it is to finding or creating our own supportive community
Mm.
during this journey to help us to get back on track and rebuilding that sense of hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's so important, right? Because the normal
Mm,
reaction that we have, or the normal reaction that
mm,
I have, is when I'm stressed or experiencing something, I'll go
mm,
internal. And when we go
yeah,
internal, like that's we're inside the problem, right? Like our thoughts are
yes.
automatically going to the negative, and so it's not getting out. It's not, there's no validation or anything like that happening, and so that's probably the worst thing that we can do. Having said that, that's what I did as well. So,
Mm,
when I talk about community, when you're going through fertility issues and stuff, it doesn't have to be like a stadium or 10 people. It can be like a couple of people, a handful of
mm,
people, 2 or 3 people that you can go to who are going to validate and support you. And sometimes that might take us educating them
mm,
on, this is what I need. A lot of the stuff that gets covered
mm,
in this space is that we can no longer hang out with the friends and family that we used
mm,
to because they're
mm,
triggering, and
mm,
and they're just not there for us, and they don't get it, and they're just trying to fix us, and like we're not getting what we need from our community. And unfortunately, this is a journey that shows us a lot of the time who are our people and who are not our people. So
yes.
there's an element of grief there.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important with that as well, that we don't then go, oh, this journey has stripped me of friends. No, no, no. It has like provided you with proof or this awareness of, oh, those actually weren't my people. They were here for the good times, and that is it. So there's like
Mm,
this shedding of
yeah.
community as well. And that's going to allow you to find the people. And as I said, they're not all going to be able to support you in every aspect, but it's you being able to communicate, hey, I want you to listen to me. I don't
Yeah.
want you to fix me. I don't
Yeah.
want you to tell me about a person, a friend or a friend who, I don't want you to make me feel better in this moment. I know that sounds really weird, but we don't want that. We just want someone to sit beside us and go,
Mm,
that sounds really hard. I'm so sorry you're going through that. This really sucks. That's what we need. And so we need to educate people, because people don't need know how to support us through this. So
mm,
that's, when we're talking about community, it doesn't have to be a big group of people. And I find that on this journey as well, we do tend
mm.
to, our support network, we do need to protect ourselves a little bit as well. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Um, so I guess, Jen, in your experience, should one continue to hope in the face of everything they're going through, the uncertainty of their infertility journey? Do you think it's important that someone who going through the challenging time still holding on that hope and keep going, Jen?
It's such a slippery slope, isn't it?
Mm,
My advice about hope is, it's always there. It is always there. It doesn't have to be this big monumental going into an IVF cycle going, this is going to work. No, it could merely be, I don't know whether this is going to work, but I'm doing the thing.
mhm,
I think a lot of, like, we have pressure, and people keep on saying to us, just have hope, just have hope. And it really does get a bad rap, because we think that if I have hope and it doesn't work, then it hurts more. And it actually doesn't. What hurts more is the punishment that we place on top of ourselves, because we say to ourselves, see, you shouldn't have had hope. How silly of you. Of course it wasn't going to work out. Like, how dare you? Like, you're so foolish. And this is what we say to others. This is what I used to say to myself as well. And so then we connect it and kind of go, okay, well, I can't have hope because it really hurts when I have hope and I've got further to fall. No, you don't have further to fall. You had hope to begin with. Of course,
Mm.
you're going into an IVF cycle hoping that it works. But because you're not, like outwardly expressing it, it's not this warm, fuzzy emotion. As I was saying before, it's like a
Yeah.
cognitive process.
Yeah.
It's about kind of going, okay, here's the goal, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do to achieve it. And,
Yeah.
rather than this, I have to feel hopeful. And I think that it's also like, number one, lowering the expectation. And
Yeah.
number two, like, you don't have to feel hopeful. You don't have to, it would be nice,
Yeah.
but you don't have to put pressure on. And the reason why it's not working is not because you're not outwardly expressing your hope, or because there's a thought process that says, oh, I don't think this is going to work. Like, that's not the reason. I think
Mm.
we just put so much pressure on
Mm.
ourselves, and we can do little things to gain that hope, but at the end of the
Mm.
day, we need to stop pressuring ourselves
Mm.
to get to this utopian, I have to have hope. It's such a slippery slope, and we just need to be really gentle with ourselves in this space and
Mm.
remind ourselves that just going through a
Yeah.
cycle, or making a
Yeah.
modification in our diet, or
Yeah.
having intercourse around the right time of ovulation,
Mm.
that proves that you have hope. Of course
Mm.
you have hope. So you don't have to scrapple with it. And there's also a thing called the backwards law, that the more you try to feel a certain way, the
Mm.
less likely you are to feel it. So let's say you go into a cycle, or like, or whatever it is that you're approaching, and you're like, I gotta have hope. Okay, what's going to give me hope? I'm going to read the books. I'm going to do the affirmations. I'm going to do a meditation that specializes in hope. I'm going to do visualizations, going to have sticky notes, all that. And it's kind of like, I have to have hope. I have to have hope. And then when we don't experience it, what do we feel? It feels hopeless, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't even get to that
Yeah.
point of, like, not that I even know, like, what does hope feel like, but because you can't get to that space of, yes, this is going to work out. And so it moves us further away. So
Mm.
yeah, the backwards law, it's something that I think is really important to consider.
Yeah.
The more you try to feel a certain way, the less likely you are to feel it, and you're going to move further away from it. So this whole, I need to do something
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
garner hope. No, you don't have to do that. It's kind of like riding that wave, and not putting too much pressure on yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful, Jen. I think last question here, Jen. A lot of women are on very high pressure, trying to kind of keep up with their biological clock because they are worried about, for example, equality issue and all that. Sometimes all they can think of is, no, I got to do this month every month, right? I just want to touch on the self-care aspect as well, Jen. Like how important it is to also remind yourself that it is okay to take a break, take a pause in this fertility journey.
Yeah, and this is one of I feel like everything I'm saying, oh, this is the hardest thing. Like, this is a really hard thing
Mm,
to do as well,
yeah,
especially if you are driven, and especially if you do have your age where everyone keeps on telling you, oh, you're old
yeah,
age, or it's because you're too old, or you're beyond your prime, or like geriatric pregnancies, all of those different
yes.
things. There's so much pressure on our age, and there's so much pressure on our time as well. And so because of that, we feel like we can't stop. Like, once
Mm,
it's like this, you're on this hamster wheel, and you're like, I just have to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going.
yeah,
But what we don't realize is that this does have an impact, on our stress levels, on our quality of life. Like, we need to aim for balance in this.
mm,
And I always say, like, sometimes being unproductive is the most productive thing that we can do. And if you use an example of at work, like if you have a deadline for work, and
yeah,
you're working on this project, and it's late at night, and you're like, your mind is scrambled, and you're just trying to push through. Now, you could push through and it might take you 3 hours to do that.
Yep.
Or you can go have a nap, wake up first thing in the morning, and you'll knock it out in 30 minutes.
Yes.
So and I like that you use the language of pause, like take a break. Oh my goodness, like I don't need a break. Like I'll just keep on pushing through. But it's this mentality. And,
Yes.
when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, and the masculine energy, I just have to go. I have to go hard. I have to run. I have to achieve this. I have to push through. And then you've got the the feminine side on the other side, which is going with the flow and being kind with yourself and nurturing yourself and all of that. Having a baby is the most feminine thing that you can be doing. And so we need to find that balance between the masculinity. And I'm not saying that we can't be in that zone, like otherwise like stuff just wouldn't get done. So yes, we need to find that balance between the masculinity, which is doing things and making changes and making progress and booking the appointments and taking
Yeah.
action. And then the balance between the femininity as well is I'm going to stop and I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to nurture myself, because that is important too. We need to have both. So this is all about achieving balance. And so, yeah, for the woman who's like, I can't stop, time's changed. I'm not saying that you need to take 6 months off, 1 month, 1 month. And that is the thing that can make a huge amount of difference, not just for your fertility, but your mindset, your mental health,
Absolutely.
and your quality of life.
Absolutely. Oh, this is so good, Jen. That's a very, very practical, insightful advice. Now, Jen, is there any other things you would like to share with our audience today, Jen?
Oh, look, just the whole like validating what we're going
Mm,
through and how hard this is. You're not struggling because there is something wrong with you. It is because we weren't given the skills and the coping strategies to be able to deal with this. And we are living in a society where it's largely misunderstood and there are triggers everywhere and so many insensitive comments. So it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just we weren't taught how to do this stuff. So please, and I know this is said I say it all the time, give yourself some grace here. You are doing such a great job. And a lot of people don't see the effort that goes behind all of this. I see it. I see how hard you are
working.
working right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Now, before we wrap up, can you tell our audience here how they can connect with you or even find your book, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on what you're going through. If you are trying to conceive still or going through pregnancy loss, you can find me over on Instagram as Jennifer Robertson. Or if you are currently pregnant after loss, then you can find me via Your Pregnancy Haven as well.
Oh, thank you. Now, thanks everyone again for watching this episode. I really appreciate the beautiful work that you do, Jennifer. And thank you so much for being here to share with our audience lots of useful advice and practical tips. And if you find this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well as sharing with all the other friends or family that will find this episode helpful. Until then, I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.